Alright, welcome to the simulated celestial situation room. Essentially, I'm going to simulate a celestial situation room CSR analysis for a hypothetical 2027 conflict, applying the protocols from the previous briefing to a realistic scenario. If you see my other video I just posted, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Celestial situation room CSR briefing. Here's our operation. This is a thesis deep dive. The theater of the Levantine nexus, hypothetically, primary analysis is Q1 through Q2 2027. Scenario overview being simulating a multi-vector crisis involving a regional state, state alpha, powerful non-state actor, faction sigma, and competing global powers centered on strategic maritime and energy infrastructure. Let's look at our celestial narrative and primary HPRW, Q1 2027. Dominant high probability resonant window, which is this, for this period is defined by a Mars-Saturn conjunction in Cancer, exact in late March 2027. And here are our celestial mechanics, CM. And we have our primary theater implications, our PTI. Okay? So first we have our CM standing for celestial mechanics. We have Mars in Cancer, Saturn in Cancer, and a conjunction. So Mars in Cancer is the planet of initiative, and aggression is in its sign of detriment, okay? This often manifests as defensive, reactive, or emotionally charged conflict, with a focus on homeland, territory, and historical grievances. Saturn in Cancer is the planet of structure, control, and restriction. It's also challenged here, highlighting pressures on national security, borders, and supply lines. The conjunction, this fusion creates an archetype of the fortress under siege. Action, Mars is forced into a defensive consolidating posture, Saturn in Cancer. Energy favors entrenched positions, attritional warfare, and conflicts driven by a powerful sense of vulnerability or protection. Here's our PTI, primary theater implications, defensive posturing and brinkmanship. State alpha is highly likely to perceive existential threats to its territorial integrity or core national assets. This increases the risk of preemptive asymmetric strikes against perceived invaders. Logistics is a battleground. Saturn rules constraints, critical supply routes, especially maritime, given Cancer's association with the sea, become primary targets, and critical vulnerabilities, blockades, and economic strangulation become favored tactics. Moral and emotional warfare. Cancer governs public sentiment. Information operations will heavily leverage narratives of national victimhood, family, community sacrifice, and the defense of cultural heritage to mobilize domestic populations and demoralize adversaries. Here's our secondary celestial influences and actor analysis. With our celestial factor influence on state alpha governed by Capricorn, Cancer axis, influence on faction sigma governed by Scorpio, Aquarius. Jupiter and Gemini, expansion through information, struggles with official narratives, may over-rely on traditional state media, losing the story war in agile digital spaces. Primary advantage, excels in decentralized propaganda, cyber ops, and recruiting via globalized ideological networks. Strength is in swarm intelligence. Pluto in Aquarius, transformative systems shock, faces extreme pressure on its technological and energy infrastructure. Cyber defenses are a critical fail point. Core modus operandi specializes asymmetric system collapse attacks. For example, grid, finance, communications, seeks to be the virus in the new digital age. Eclipse axis Aries Libra, March, September 2027. Sudden triggers Aries involving forced partnerships or open enemies Libra. March eclipse may precipitate the crises. September eclipse may force a renegotiation of alliances. Creates opportunities to exploit ruptures between state alpha and its conventional allies Libra. Can position itself as a champion of a new radical order Aries. Simulated protocol execution. Here's our first protocol, Protocol A. Relocated chart analysis for critical asset. We have our target, our relocated chart finding, our CSR assessment. Okay. So our T, our RCF, and our CSR A. So, with our T, target, Strait of Ormuz analog hypothetical critical choke point. Our RCF relocated chart finding on the date of the Mars-Saturn conjunction Pluto is angular near the midheaven at the straits coordinates. Our CSR assessment, high risk. This indicates the choke point is a focal point for transformative, coercive, or catastrophic power plays Pluto. Any incident here will have disproportionate system-wide consequences. Recommendations. Maritime traffic should be preceded by heavy intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance ISR patrols. Prepare contingency plans for a sudden total closure of the route, including alternative supply chains. Any military move to secure the strait will be perceived as an extreme power grab Pluto and met with severe escalation. Here's our second protocol, Protocol B, VTIL, timing of diplomatic initiative. Again, our PA, proposed action. Here's what to avoid, our A, and our recommended is our R. So, proposed action, PA, a multilateral summit led by a neutral party to de-escalate. And then our celestial timing analysis, CTA. Mars-Saturn conjunction window negotiations will be poisoned by fear, rigidity, and threat perception. R, recommended schedule for early June 2027 when Venus, diplomacy is strong in Taurus. Practical agreements, Mercury, communication is direct and out of shadow. Supportive aspect between Jupiter and Saturn is forming, allowing expansive solutions. Jupiter to be grounded in reality. Saturn. Talks held then have a higher probability of yielding tangible if limited confidence building measures. Focus on resource and economic stability. Here's our protocol, Psyche, theme, information operations for state alpha leveraging Cancer. All public and allied communication must frame actions as the shield of the homeland. Imagery should feature protecting civilians, safeguarding historical sites, and enduring hardship with national resolve. Saturnine discipline and patience must be the tone. For faction Sigma, leveraging Pluto and Aquarius, their propaganda will frame the conflict as the old Z versus the new net. They will portray State Alpha as a brittle, archaic empire. Cancer Capricorn, doomed to be dismantled by the fluid network and technologically savvy revolution. Aquarius, they will highlight any cyber success as proof of this inevitable transition. Here's the conclusion for this portion of this simulation. Celestial weather for Q1 through Q2 2027, and this theater doesn't predict who will win, but how the conflict will be fought and where its center of gravity will lie. Mars-Saturn conjunction in Cancer sets a grueling defensive and emotionally charged stage. The advantage shifts away from sheer firepower toward resilience of supply, security of infrastructure, and control of the narrative. Side that consciously aligns its strategy with these archetypal currents, prioritizing attritional defense, securing logistics, and weaponizing cultural sentiment, will fight with the cosmic weather at its back. Side that attempts blitzkrieg offensives or ignores the vulnerability of its home front will fight against a profound resonant tide. And now we have one more portion of this video because I have a Synastry portion. And you'll see what I mean by that as soon as I finish clearing up this tab so we can mark up the next one. Just gonna make sure I clear this one too. Alright, this was going off of the other video I literally just made. So if you haven't seen that, I recommend you check it out as well. Alright. So our CSR Intelligence Appendix Synastry and Leadership Profile Analysis. Here's our Theses Deep Dive Phase 2 with the Synastry Interdynamics Analysis of Hypothetical Actors, State Alpha, and Faction Sigma. And our goal here is to move beyond celestial weather and model the persistent personality structures, karmic entanglements, and triggering mechanisms of the conflict's primary actors. So we have our foundational natal profiles of software. State Alpha, founding chart hypothetically, we're going to say November 29th, 1947. Sun in Sagittarius, Moon in Cancer, Capricorn ascendant. Okay? Core personality, software OS, a nation built on ideological vision, Sagittarius Sun, The deeply emotional, defensive, and familial core, Cancer moon, presenting a face of stern, pragmatic authority to the world, Capricorn ascendant. Key vulnerability, natal configuration, cardinal T-square involving Mars and Libra in the 7th house. Aggression, Mars expressed through diplomacy, law, or partnership, Libra, but also indicating indecision and conflict and a tendency to fight through proxies and alliances. Saturn in Cancer, 4th house, a profound restrictive burden. Saturn related to homeland security and emotional foundations, Cancer. This creates a national psyche of defensive anxiety. Uranus in Aries, 10th house, the need for sudden, independent, shocking action on the world stage. Uranus in Aries, midheaven. Strategic imperative, this T-square is a persistent engine of tension. The state is constantly managing the friction between its need for secure, traditional foundation, Saturn in Cancer, and its urge for revolutionary independent action, Uranus in Aries, with its martial energy caught in the middle, seeking balance, Mars in Libra. Now let's look at faction Sigma. Hypothetically, we're going to say the emergence is from a treaty, January 15th, 1990. Sun in Capricorn, Moon in Scorpio, Aquarius ascendant. Core personality and entity born from a structural collapse, reorganization, Capricorn Sun, with an obsessive, secretive, and transformative emotional core, Scorpio Moon, presenting as a radical, ideological, driven collective, Aquarius ascendant. With the key strength natal configuration being a Pluto Moon conjunction in Scorpio in the 8th house, this indicates an organization whose power, Pluto, is derived from its collective emotional intensity, Moon, mastery of hidden resources, 8th house, and a fanatical willingness to undergo death and rebirth cycle, Scorpio. Its morale is unbreakable because it is tied to a transcendent dark purpose. Okay? Let's look at the transit triggers for 2027, the activation code. So the 2027 transits don't create new behaviors, they activate the pre-existing software vulnerabilities and strengths in each natal chart. So for state alpha, triggering the T-square, 2027 Mars-Saturn conjunction in Cancer will sit directly on alpha's natal moon, Cancer, and oppose its natal Saturn in Cancer. It's a direct double activation of its core vulnerability. CSR assessment, transit will trigger alpha's deepest defensive anxieties, moon, and feelings of restriction, burden, Saturn, simultaneously. Pressure will be overwhelming, making a reactive, emotionally charged Cancer military response. Mars, highly probable, forces the T-square's tension to explode. Let's look at faction Sigma, empowering the core. Long-term Pluto in Aquarius transit is moving over Sigma's Aquarius ascendant. This is a generational transit that empowers and transforms the entity's very identity and presentation to the world. It aligns perfectly with Sigma's natal revolutionary Aquarius and transformative Pluto nature. Transit makes Sigma appear as the inevitable avatar of systemic change. It grants them strategic timing, amplifying their ability to network and wage unconventional Aquarian warfare of transformation, Pluto. Our synastry analysis, interchart dynamics, network conflict. So analyzes how the two entities' charts interact, revealing the deeper chemistry of the conflict. Synastry, aspect, dynamic, interpretation, strategic intelligence, insight. So, Sigma's Pluto is in Scorpio and square Alpha Sun in Sagittarius. Sigma's transformative coercive power, Pluto, directly challenges and seeks to undermine Alpha's core identity, ideology, and leadership. Sun, it's a classic aspect of power struggle and obsession. Sigma's fundamental goal isn't just territorial, but existential, to negate and replace Alpha's central philosophy and reason for being. Conflict is ideological to its core. Alpha Saturn Cancer, opposite Sigma's Moon, Scorpio. Alpha's restrictive, defensive, authoritarian weight, Saturn, falls directly on Sigma's emotional heart and sense of tribal belonging, Moon. It's experienced by Sigma as crushing, soul-deep oppression. Alpha security policy, Saturn and Cancer are the primary recruitment tool for Sigma. Every defensive crackdown is perceived as an attack on Sigma's family, Moon, fueling endless fanatical resistance. Sigma's Uranus in Sagittarius conjunct Alpha Sun, Sagittarius. Sigma's urge for shocking revolutionary change, Uranus, is focused on the exact same arena as Alpha's core identity, Sun. Sigma seeks to hijack and revolutionize Alpha's own founding ideology. Sigma will consistently use Alpha's own foundational texts and ideals. Sagittarius against it, framing itself as a true revolutionary heir. This creates profound confusion and ideological subversion within Alpha's population. Alpha's Mars, Libra, trine Sigma's ascendant, Aquarius, Alpha's mode of combat. Mars, diplomatic, legal, alliance-based, flows easily with Sigma's front-facing identity ascendant as a network ideological movement. Paradoxically, Alpha's preferred martial toolkit, lawfare, coalition building, is uniquely suited to engaging Sigma's decentralized structure. Challenges for Alpha to overcome its own Martian indecision, Libra, to wield this advantage effectively. Synthesized intelligence predictions and counter strategy. Predicted Sigma action during the Mars-Saturn transit on Alpha's moon, Q1 2027. Sigma will launch an operation designed to wound Alpha's national psyche and sense of domestic safety, targeting Cancer, homes, mothers, patriotic symbols. This will feel like an attack on the family, triggering Alpha's T-square into a clumsy, rageful response. Predicted Alpha blind spot. Alpha will fundamentally misunderstand Sigma's motivation. We'll see a territorial or political threat, Sagittarius, Capricorn view, not a mythic soul-based rebellion, Scorpio moon versus Cancer Saturn. It will over-rely on conventional military or diplomatic Libra Mars solutions against a plutonic asymmetric enemy. Recommended counter strategy for Alpha, leveraging Synastry. We exploit the trine, reframe the narrative, avoid the trigger. Double down on the Mars Libra Ascendant Aquarius trine, isolate Sigma by legally designating and dismantling its international financial and logistical networks. Aquarius, use superior coalition building Libra to strangle its support channels. This plays to Alpha's strength and Sigma's exposure. Reframe the narrative, use intelligence to publicly expose the Pluto moon core of Sigma, not as freedom fighters, but as a death cult motivated by transformational fury. Counter the emotional moon recruitment by highlighting the destructive futility, Pluto, of its cycle of violence. Attack its morale, not just its fighters. Avoid the trigger during high-tension transits. Avoid actions that perfectly mimic the oppressive Saturn role against Sigma's moon. Precision strikes against leadership may be more effective than broad security crackdowns that create martyrs. Our final CSR assessment. Synastry reveals this isn't a simple border dispute, it's a clash of cosmological identities. A battle between the god of the Citadel, Alpha's Saturn and Cancer, and the god of the underground river, Sigma's Pluto moon and Scorpio. Transits of 2027 provide the timing for a climactic, emotionally charged battle in this long-running mythic war. Victory will go to the side that best understands and weaponizes this deeper narrative. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, subscribe and like so I can teach you more advanced astrology for free. And we'll see you in the next video.